Hey, what's going on? Jake with Chain Genius back for episode 2 of the new channel. Today, with the market moving so wildly the past month, I thought it could be fun to talk about a few of the coins that make up my portfolio, and this will probably shift month to month, especially as the market moves or I rebalance things. So if a coin or a token isn't explicitly mentioned, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm not a fan of it. With, I don't know, 1,500 or more options out there, it's hard to talk about all of them. The other idea is it's just meant to touch on them briefly and kind of give you an idea of why I personally wanted to hodl them. And generally, I do a lot of ICOs and TGEs, token generation events. If a project is still in the pre-sale, private sale, public sale, whatever, if it's still involved in the sale and hasn't been listed on an exchange yet, I'm going to be covering those and answering questions, doing reviews, but I'm not going to talk about whether or not I've personally invested in them. And the reason for that is it gets into a legal gray area as kind of a pump and dump shill mechanism. The other thing is, since the market hasn't had a chance to price it in on their own, it's something I don't even want to get involved with. So with that, I'm going to update this maybe once a month or once every other month. We'll start with February. First up on the list is Syndicator token. For those that don't know, it's right from the website, a financial management based platform on hybrid intelligence. Basically what they do is they take machine learning AI and apply it to crowdsourced information, intelligence. So they have a working app that's out, a couple of thousand users, and if you're selected as an analyst, they ask you questions and you answer them. And based on those predictions, they use that to apply sentiment analysis and basically try to predict things like what's the min and max price for Bitcoin going to be in the coming week? Is Tesla stock price going to hit a certain level? What's the US unemployment rate going to be? And the reason I like them is that they actually have a working product. It's a slick app. For those that haven't checked it out, I recommend at least giving it a try. It's fun to answer the questions, even if I'm never correct, which is fine. But the other thing is the tokens actually have a pretty cool value. Depending on how many you own, they have various tiers of services. And they have a bunch of different bots and indicators that can help with market prediction. And I think at the highest level now they have an arbitrage bot, which I myself haven't used yet. So it's really cool because there are other market sentiment apps like Santiment, Augur, Gnosis, etc. But this is the most well-built one of the bunch so far, and they're just continuing to be open with the community, engaging with them. They're hiring new team members, and recently with the market swings in January, they had a recent blog post that actually talked about how their indicators still were something like 62% accurate, which is amazing given the uncertainty that we just all went through. And granted, yes, that's lower than what happened in December, but it's really valuable that as the market swings and they get additional context, they can train their algorithms more. And that's what all of these platforms are trying to do, is basically crowdsource intelligence and then train machine learning AI on it. The next one I wanted to talk about is Neo, and I'm sure everyone knows all about Neo. The Chinese Ethereum, it's a full platform play that's going to be managing tokenization of assets, identity, privacy, smart contracts. They use a modified delegated proof of stake, and the reason I like them, going back to me being involved with ICOs, is they have a bunch of ICOs coming out this year. They have something like 40 or more coming out, which is great because it really drives the flywheel of development, because the more developers there are, the more projects that want to come out, the better developed the tools are, the more infrastructure there is, and it becomes this self-fulfilling cycle. So Neo's finally starting to hit its stride. The other thing is Da Hongfei is really, he's been the Vitalik of Neo. Like, he's been extremely well-mannered, in my opinion, with the way he handled on-chain, splitting out of Neo, the upcoming Ontology and Trinity tokens and chains. I think generally they've just done an excellent job of being as upfront as possible. And one of the criticisms usually is that all the nodes are under the foundation's control right now. But just like a baby, it needs to be nurtured and grown for a little while before it's released into the wild. So that doesn't really bother me. Cardano is the exact same way. All their nodes are under the control of the foundation right now, and that will change. I really don't care about if Neo's better than Ethereum. I like them both, and they're both pretty heavily held by me, mainly because of ICO projects on the platform. Next one is a token, ERC20 token, Modem or Modem. And they're in one of the wheelhouses I like are supply chain logistics. And they are laser focused on pharmaceutical supply chain in Europe, mainly because of the European Union regulation that came out recently. They have a focus on one thing, temperature control. They have an IoT passive device that measures the temperature along the way of travel and then writes to the blockchain at various points. And what I really like about it is they have a working product, they have working partners, they have revenue, they're an actual business. And the use case for the token, while it's not driven directly to the day-to-day use case of the actual IoT device, it's very clear they had no delusions that they were a security, it's profit sharing, this is what we're doing, it's going to do one thing. And it also allows them to apply governance where they can control whether or not they get their next tranche of money from the raise. The last one I wanted to talk about is AirSwap. It's a peer-to-peer decentralized exchange. And in general, I'm very bullish on DEXs overall. The reason is they allow no single point of failure. You don't have to trust your funds to a third party in case for any reason they decide to lock up your funds or lose them or they're hacked or shut down. It takes away, it de-risks that element. And I think you're going to see a lot more of this as the regulatory environment continues to evolve across all the different geographies. I think you're going to see more central exchanges start playing around with this. Bitfinex launched FFinex, they've announced EOSFinex, and tinfoil hat, I'd be really interested to see if Brian Armstrong of GDAX and Coinbase potentially launches an ERC20 exchange based off the 0x protocol because it solves the liquidity, decentralized, and all the risk factors associated with it. The other thing is with AirSwap, going back to them, they recently launched their token trader, which is awesome. Great proof of concept and a small little toy product to play around with. And what's really interesting to me is I think they're going to be targeting mostly OTC, over-the-counter institutional buyers, someone that wants to buy 10,000 Bitcoin at a time or 10,000 Ethereum. And the reason is Gemini does this. They have their peer-to-peer exchange that you can work on. That's great. But Gemini makes most of their money on the back end when an institutional buyer wants to buy a large order, and they want to do it in such a way that they don't destroy the liquidity of an exchange order book. And AirSwap looks to be doing a similar play where it's just decentralized, but they can handle large order buys. So that's it. Just wanted to talk about a couple of those coins. If you have any recommendations of other coins I should talk about, what you're hodling at the moment, anything like that, please feel free to leave a comment below. And if you like what I'm putting out here, hit that subscribe button. Thanks.